Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Someday with Jay Barsky. I want to say I'm happy, but I am feeling more than happy. If you're not aware, this month is Earth Month. April is considered Earth Month. So I want to release this episode on Earth Day, which is April 22nd. A lot of stuff's been going on with me that I kind of want to update, kind of want to share. Just a lot of changes, kind of ups and downs since the last episode that I posted, which was in January. And so that last solo pod was in January with goal setting. After I posted that episode, I trimmed it down to a soundtrack, and that was kind of like another final piece of that I could probably add to the catalog of all the motivational speaking tracks that I have released on Apple Music and Spotify and other platforms. So I released a second EP called No Fear, in which you can find not only the No Fear track that I made, but along with some other singles as well, including that goal setting. So now there's two EP releases out right now with the Sunday EP and the No Fear EP. So I have those two out along with two separate singles. My goal with all of that is just to let it stay there and be planted as I promote myself more. People are downloading and streaming all those items. So I would say that's out of everything that I've done so far going into 2023. I said the proudest thing that I am doing right now is just that having that released right now, because I say that's something that's out there that's still planting a seed out there in streaming devices that slowly is going to grow. As long as I continue promoting myself with comedy and motivational speaking and doing the podcast, stuff like that starts growing, promoting itself, and kind of helps me just expanding my catalog, in which I'm hoping within later months as I post more solo podcasts, I can still trim that down and actually release a full length album so I can start including everything that was on the EP, kind of organized it more properly too. So that's in the works for maybe by September, by the holidays, I'm hoping to release that full length album. So that's out right now, the No Fear EP, if you want to go ahead and download that. Little bit of kind of plans I have towards the future is I'm with this, especially with the home studio. I kind of have this home studio built up. That's why it's good to like kind of practice. I want to do a range of just having people over in my home studio, but also go out and kind of make a traveling studio. It's not actually that hard to make a traveling studio if you have the good sound equipment and just edit everything, which I'm able to do. So I kind of want to just use this as a gear to me towards to other locations that I can go and perform. Also, I can kind of tour around and do comedy, do a little stand up, maybe do some motivational speaking seminars, along with practicing on the podcast and having other guests. Since I posted the solo podcast on January, there's a lot that I kind of want to personally update on these podcasts. I don't try to give out too much personal information, but I also at times want to share some personal things that are going on that I feel like could be necessary for listeners to hear or maybe interested to hear about me. February was a hard month for me. I would say a good friend. He goes by the name Chris Priester. I called him Unk. He had a phrase, Unk Life, who is one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life doing comedy. I met him really early when I started. I bump into him when I'm doing mics, performing, or just going to shows, and he's all around. So I kind of just make sure when I kind of tour around in the area, I make sure just to either stop by, catch a show, or maybe perform. And it was helpful to perform. Personally, I don't mind going to mics that have even just 3-4 people there. If there's a certain person there that I know that's actually listening, that actually has an ear, that like comic or host, that's all that matters. They're going to hear it. I want to hear their responses because I know they're listening for the joke. He heckles, gives a good heckle. Not all heckling is bad heckling. He heckles because he enjoys the show. Or make sure to record my sets. And there was only a few times that he's got a chance to hear a lot of my stuff, and you could hear a lot of his heckling in the recordings. So I listen back on my sets and stuff, but sometimes I just listen to like just other stuff because it just makes me laugh. So a lot of his responses of just him heckling just made me laugh. Just listen to it. And this is stuff that happened maybe a year and a half ago, but it's still making me laugh based on just his reactions. So, saying all this about him, he's just someone I really respected. He was pretty much an uncle to me. I learned a lot from him. So he actually passed, and I was actually excited to actually see him. He was going to host this one show on a Friday night. So I was actually planning to see him, only to find out a few days before that Friday that I was going to see him, I found out about his passing. So that week was a hard week for me because I would say on Tuesday, not only went to a show, but following that show, I performed two different locations. And the next night, went to another show performing at another location, only to hear about his passing. And that night, I had myself a good cry. I was looking forward to see him on that Friday. I was planning to see him on that Friday the next day to actually perform a new set that I kind of really was working hard on performing, and I've just worked pretty much sharpened the set to the point that I would have liked to him at least hear it before I try to work on some new material. So I was really saddened about his passing. I had myself, and I'll admit on this podcast, I had myself a good cry finding out that I will never see him again. This is somebody that I considered him an uncle. He was a teacher to me. A couple of weeks ago, before his passing, I just sent him a random message. Don't normally send him, but I just said to him, like, I've learned so much from you. Like, thank you for just from everything. Like, I've learned so much from you. And he just laughed it off, just saying he's the teacher for real. But it saddened me that I will never see him again. Someone that's made me laugh hysterically. So I was saddened by that, had myself a good cry about that, reflect on myself, on just appreciating everything I've learned from him. Just kind of just gathering the knowledge to the point that now maybe I'm the unc. I am an uncle. I am an unc. I'm grateful enough that I've had that man. I have had someone like that in my life that I can use that knowledge and share that to other people and share it even maybe to this podcast. That Friday night on that show that was supposed to happen, they actually end up still continuing that show. A couple of other fellow comics actually still continue the show, but it's just made that a tribute show for Chris Priester, the Unc. I went to that tribute show, did really well. It was just a quick 3 minute set I did, but I just did some of Unc's favorite jokes that he had that I just did for that tribute show. So that was cool. Just did that. And after that was a hard week for me. Just I mentioned all the going to shows, just watching, performing, that I needed a good long rest. I still was performing throughout that month. So February was a busy month for me. So going into March is when I kind of just wanted to rest and not do stand up, since I did probably maybe 2 or 3 times more the amount that I usually do a month of stand up for that month of February. March, I just wanted to rest. I kind of knew that I'm not going to be probably doing any stand up for a while. Wanted to focus on writing. I just wanted to even focus just resting, not even thinking about stand up. So I even knew writing was going to take me a while too. But I wanted to say that I kind of was like flirting with writing for a bit when it came to March, and just kind of just reflecting and still grasping on everything that's what happened with Chris Priester, the Unc. So March, I kind of wanted to just March had been just me going to just shows and just focusing on some writing. So I finally was able to write some new stuff. I've been actually trying to get into roasting a little bit. So I've been trying to get into doing some roasting. So I've just been teaching myself and watching a lot of roasting, and inspired me to get into roasting myself. I don't do much. I'm not known as an insult comic. And it's not saying that I can't do it. It's just something that I prefer not to do. But I am capable of doing it if I wanted to. So, which is why it just helps with my joke writing too. I work on working on something as easy as roasting, which actually kind of got really easy for me anyways when I started teaching myself and doing it. It really helped me in my joke writing, just doing the roasting, because a lot of roasting is pretty much just one-liners, because since the person that you're targeting is already there, you don't have to give too much description of them anyways. Since they're there, you kind of can see what they look like or with their appearance, so you can easily just do a one-liner, so you don't have to kind of help prepare for the punchline because they're already there. But I wanted to treat April as a giving month. This is Earth Month, if you're not familiar with it. Earth Day is April 22nd, which is as the day that I'm posting this podcast. So instead of having something posted, I might not have anything posted on the 1st of next month, just because what was supposed to be posted for May 1st is going to be posted on April 22nd. So I might just have a guest for the month of May, might be a solo. We'll see when the time comes. But I want to work hard on releasing this podcast for Earth Day. I kind of want to make it like an every year kind of thing. Last year, 2022, it's been actually a year now since this podcast has been started. But I want to try to give back to this month, and I don't necessarily feel like I have to do stand up to do that. Like I mentioned, February just took a lot out of me when it came to stand up. That March kind of helped me just focus on other things, and then April is kind of just slowly helping me get back into transitioning. Maybe I'll get back into next month or the month after, depending how the writing goes. But what I want to do on Earth Day, which is again going to be this day when this podcast is released in the morning, and I want to start my morning doing what most likely would be doing a beach cleanup. There's a local beach cleanup organization around that does something like that on Earth Day. They actually did something a week before, which when I did that really inspired me to releasing this podcast. So I'm going to be doing that. I also know there's a park cleanup nearby. It's that I might try to dabble in both if I can, or I'll just stick with the beach cleanup and just hang out at the beach after that. I usually like doing that depending how the water is. Typically, when beach cleanups happen, it always happens on a good, like when the water's calm. So that's the best time to, after I do a beach cleanup, I normally just set up my beach umbrella in front of the beach and then just have a good few laps in the ocean. So we'll see how that day goes. I might actually perform a little that night too. I saw some stuff going in West Palm. I always like the comedy shows / mics so I can enjoy the show and still do a little perform. So I saw that going on. Doing comedy is a stress reliever for me. It's something that I can do in the evenings, but there's stuff that I like to do at the day. I don't always like to use my energy to excel in the evenings. Some days I feel like that I must do things to excel in the daytime. So this means that working on my meditation practice, focusing on my yoga practice, focusing on my breathing techniques, meeting people that would help me gain more knowledge to help me with my yoga practice. When I say yoga, I don't always mean like the postures and the poses and everything. This means a lot of just my spiritual health, my overall well-being, maybe things that I'm eating, maybe things on my mental health that I'm reflecting on. Last couple of things I'll mention before I get into the body of everything. My plan for next month is just to write some more. I'm continuing just focusing on writing. I'm really pushing myself to not just do any stand-up until I'm finally ready to perform the 5-10 minute sets that I'm currently working on. And I'm hoping to actually just do some more traveling. I'm hoping just kind of maybe just do some like road trips to different locations, different spots, and just exploring. Again, going back to what I enjoy, the journey it's given to me of doing comedy. It just drives me to go to these different landmarks, these different locations, and just gives me opportunities that I can explore around those endpoints where I'm going and just kind of focus on another journey or another side quest that I can help me develop and grow as a person. All right, so for this episode, it's titled UVU, V being short for versus, so you versus you for a reason. No matter who you're competing with, it's always going to be you in the end that you actually should be competing with. How you feel against others is a reflection on you and the insecurities that you have towards the weaknesses that you may have that you have not realized. I don't consider myself a competitive person. Anyone that personally knows me knows I am not a competitive person. To me, competition is kind of a self-reflection on who you are. It's okay to emulate others, seeing what others are doing, that you want to do something similar. What I don't do is strive to be better than others. I don't try to be a better person than another person because that's who they are. The only person I can be better is me, is the person that I am today. I am striving to be the better person that I am tomorrow. Something I realized that it took me a while later in life is that everyone has their own past. People have maybe problems or issues that are similar, but they have their own unique way of that issue. So they have their own unique way of overcoming that issue or challenge based on their previous experiences. So it's hard for me to repeat what others have done in their lives to overcome challenges that are complex challenges that I've experienced in my life. And the reason why I'm not a competitive person is I don't focus on other people. And what I mean by that is that I only am focusing on myself. I don't have time to really focus on other people. This doesn't mean just for comedy when it comes to competition. It can mean just in life in general. Wherever I go, whatever I do, there are people that are going to compete with me. I can't control that. Maybe years ago, I would say that I was a very insecure person. Yes, maybe I compared myself to others just because I wanted to have what they have. I wanted to strive what they have in their lives because what they have is what I thought was success. Turns out I was wrong. What success to me is what my mindset is telling me. It's just me being happy. Doesn't mean that I have to be the best in something. As long as I'm doing something that makes me happy, that's all that matters to me. I realize that's what really makes me happy is that the fact that I appreciate what I have. I don't ask for any more. I don't ask for any less. I'm content with what I have. If I have less, I still appreciate what I have. If I have more, I'm even more appreciative what I have. So saying all that, I don't strive to be the funniest. And I go back to stand-up because one thing that I think a lot of comics are taught and something that I've been taught before doing stand-up and something I kind of now that I got into stand-up that I'm really against is that I'm the funniest person in the room, that I'm going to make everyone laugh the most. Personally, that doesn't matter to me. All that matters to me is that I'm just making people laugh. I don't care about me being the funniest. That is not my goal. My goal is just to get to the location in a safe manner, do my time, and then hurry up and go home and go to sleep so I can wake up early and work out and prepare for other stuff. When I am in a room, I don't compare myself to other people. I don't compare myself that are doing their stand-up. If anything, I'm happier if there's someone that's crushing it or even that's going up before me that's crushing it because that kind of just helps me get rid of any nerves that I have and just try to laugh it off because ultimately I'm there to have fun. I don't like to distract myself on focusing on others. It's not something that interests me. Nobody has lived in the shoes that I've lived. No one's seen the experiences I've experienced in my life. They may have experienced something similar, but they don't know what the struggles that I've had to go to get to where I am, to work on my material, to make people laugh. When I do my jokes and bits and stuff like that, this is not just me writing down and just reciting. This is me just taking days and maybe a month to try to figure out and do some self-reflection and reflect on myself and my feelings and try to find the certain proper wording to help describe the best that I feel. And sometimes I don't have the words. I've never came across these words that I need to use, which requires me to read more, to watch more, to listen more, to experience different life more in order for me to accumulate everything I have and experience, and I can share that knowledge to my stand-up or motivational speaking. I don't use my stand-up just to laugh. I'm aware of this, that when I'm up there and doing stand-up, I'm inspiring others. Another of my intention is to inspire people. I did not realize that I do this until I started getting really deep into my stand-up and realized how much I am inspiring others. Even though when I go up there, it makes it easy to do public speaking, but just have others, it kind of inspires others to overcome their fear of public speaking and other things that they don't realize that they can do. Personally, I never really thought that I was funny. I have funny moments. Like I mentioned, I'm a little weird. If you haven't kind of gathered that, if you haven't listened to, I think this is like the 18th episode I'm posting, but I'm sure you can gather a little bit of my oddness if you kind of just listen to these podcasts, and whether it's this solo podcast or my interviews. My whole purpose is doing this podcast, comedy, everything that's within the artwork that I'm doing is just me striving to be the best version of me that I could be. I don't strive to have the best podcast. I don't strive to be the most physically strongest person. I don't strive to be the most funniest person. My purpose is to just strive to be the best version of me, upgrade myself from what I was yesterday, upgrade myself what I am today. And so tomorrow will be the ideal person that I'm hoping to see, that I can become, reaching my potential and even beyond. And there's nothing wrong with competition. I do get a little competitive myself, but this is more in a friendly manner. And when I say being competitive, this doesn't mean like, oh, I'm trying to be better than someone. When I experience those feelings, it's just kind of things that I question myself is, why am I feeling this way? What is it about my experiences? What about myself, that any insecurities that I might have about myself or my craft? Why am I experiencing this? Why am I feeling this way? It's something that I will reflect on for days, doing my walks, just doing some self-discovery journeys on myself to understand why I am feeling these certain experiences that I've never felt before. And it's really because I'm seeing something that I like. It's seeing something that brings me joy. And in order for me to accumulate that, I have to emulate a little bit of that myself. Not to actually become that, but emulate a little bit so it can help me grow and become more, reach the potential that I am supposed to reach. If I was at really the potential I need to be, I wouldn't be jealous. I wouldn't really be envious because that is something that wouldn't bother me. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, but I'm an open-minded person that I know that I need to grow. I treat every day and every new experiences as an opportunity for me to grow and reflect and obtain more knowledge, no matter how minimal the lesson is. I'm a big believer that everyone should move up. It's not just the individual. That's how a community really needs to succeed. A community needs to succeed when everyone succeeds. That's how it works. That's how teamwork works. Teamwork makes the dream work. Dreams aren't fulfilled just by one single individual within the group. That's not how leaders are born. Leaders are to guide others to success with selflessness intentions. This is what true leadership is. True leaders aren't really supposed to be well known. The team is supposed to be well known. When the team's well known, that's how you know you have a good leader. There's no I in team. So when you know a true leader is selflessness, a true leader recognizes that their other partners are in need of support. The leader helps their other team members grow, even if that means excelling past the leader. That's what gurus strive for. They strive for their students to outdo themselves, so now the student becomes the teacher. I'm always supportive of all my friends, and I'm always joyous when I see them prospering, succeeding, and doing better than I've last seen them. Sometimes I join with them, sometimes I compete with them, but I never try to be better than them. I don't try to be better than others. I just try to be the best me that I can be. Because in the end, it's always going to be you. It's you versus you. In the end, when you've done all you've done at the end of the day, when you've strived to exercise or try to work on your material or craft or anything that you are doing to help you more of a competitive person, when you go home at the end of the day, it's going to be you. This is why you focus on yourself and focus on what you have and focus on those strengths and focus on any weaknesses that you may have so you don't come across any barriers or anyone or anything to make you feel any less of a person you are. Nobody should make you feel fearful of who you are because it's you versus you in the end. That's all you're going to look at. That's all you're going to strive for. That's all you're going to see. When you see at the end of the path, you see there's someone down there. That's you. That's the ultimate version of you when you get to the end of the path. So just reflect on that. That's the person you are striving to become. And if you don't like what you see, just know that you can do better. You can always improve and do better. This is what this podcast is for, to help you grow as an individual, find different ways, whether it's doing physical exercises, brain exercising, finding things that interest you, or finding different passions that you never knew that you would have for. But if you're not happy with what you see, then do better, grow. But don't use fear or hate or anger in order to dislike who you are. You are who you are for a reason. There's a purpose for you being alive. That's what your journey is for, is to find that purpose, to find that individual that you are. And it's good to have certain things, could be pictures, certain items, just kind of driving you to see a little reflection of who you want to become. I kind of want to give a little personal example. When I had Raul over, we were talking about a couple of paintings that I had. There's one certain painting that I have, and which I've had, my family's had it for years. And just once I got my own place, I kind of just acquired the painting myself. In my hallways, I pass through that painting. I don't look at it all the time, but I will admit at my lowest times when I am kind of just having my own personal struggles, my personal doubts, there's times when I do the things I do, whether it's journey throughout comedy, doing this podcast, doing my self-reflection journeys. So I had this painting of just someone that kind of looks like their own individual superhero. It's just someone that I looked at and I'm like, that's who I strive to be. Okay, so now it's to what I think it's everybody that's been following this podcast is favorite part when I do these solo podcasts. And I say that because now I'm actually getting feedback on like the advice that I usually give or a quote that I usually share on these podcasts. I've been debating about sharing this type of advice for a while. It's kind of a very vulnerable subject for me, and I'll explain why. And the advice is simply just this: dance. It's okay to dance. I mentioned on a previous podcast that I get envious of just different weird things. One of them I mentioned before is when I see another comic sweating more than me on stage. I'm big on sweating to get a good sweat out. So another thing that I usually see when I see another comic doing this on stage is usually when I see a comedian out there dancing. And I know I'm not like the greatest dancer. I know I'm not the best dancer. I can dance a little bit. I've learned to dance and take some classes in college and everything for a while. And throughout my travels, I practice a little dancing. But I get a little jealous when I see a comic up there on stage. It doesn't matter if they're really funny or not. If they're dancing, I get a little envious of that. I know I can't dance better than them, but it's kind of a trigger for me. I know that I'm capable of going up there and dancing as well. Why am I not doing that? Why am I being afraid? I am more jealous of the fearlessness of when I see someone out there. I am jealous of that fearlessness of not being afraid to act like a fool and just being very comfortable and open into a big crowd that's a little bit lubricated as well, and seeing how their feedback is. It's a lot of preparation when you have to do a lot of dancing, especially when you're doing it on a small stage where you could possibly actually fall off if you don't move correctly. But basically, a lot of good dancing is just involves confidence. This is just based on my experience of when I do a little dancing. You don't need to really consume anything to have that confidence. Just as long as you step out in the dance floor, all that confidence builds as soon as you jump on the dance floor and you start moving and start dancing and moving your body. A lot of good dancing just involves a lot of confidence. When I had Sita over, we talked a lot about dancing and just how he was doing a lot of Bollywood dancing and how he even gets his body moving and everything. When I had David Meeson, the dating expert, on here, he didn't mention it in our conversation, but in his social media, puts up a lot of reels of just him dancing and kind of just advising men to be more active and just being more social active and just building up your interests. That's one reason why I got into yoga, is because it triggers all the muscles in my body, just like how dancing kind of does to me. You move your arms, move your neck, move your body, move your hips. If you've seen a couple of things that I've posted myself, I've posted a couple of TikToks in which I have to do a dance and move a little bit. Don't do a little too much of those. I just do a little basic dancing. If I can really practice and move a bit, if you look up the TikTok videos, you can actually see what I'm talking about, in which I can do dancing a little bit, but don't expect me to do some America's Best Dance crew stuff. I kind of delve into a little bit of dancing and myself into my stand-up. I usually just do a little dancing to kind of get myself going right before I get to the mic, kind of get the crowd going. There's times when there's shows that are shows in karaoke. What I like to do is kind of open up with the karaoke song, maybe a minute or two, and then get into my jokes. It just riles the crowd up and just kind of like they laugh at, but it kind of just helps out with my vocals and just getting into my stand-up. And I mentioned how I do my meditation practices a little bit, give you a little sample of my own practices that I do on a personal basis. So I want to share like a little bit of my dancing practice. I don't always have the opportunity to practice my stand-up. I've come across opportunities where I get to dance a little bit. I mentioned I was at a beach club recently. And after the cleanup was done, after everyone kind of just finished off, there was just music playing. And this was like maybe 10, 11 in the morning where everyone started dancing. I was pretty much just swimming in the ocean. The water was pretty cool and calm. So I just knocked out a few laps. So dancing's fun. Dancing is a good social activity. It doesn't always have to be the club dancing and all that. Sometimes I like to do a little dance before I get ready for the day. Don't do this often, but if I'm really in the mood, I usually put my Beats by Dre headphones. You don't have to have that, but just nice Bluetooth headphones, especially muffled earphones, are really cool to have. Just knocks out any outside noise, and then you can just jam out. I have certain songs that I like to jam out. I have a specific song, go-to song. Sometimes I have a backup song, but I just play that song a couple of times and do a little dancing myself. And I'll leave you with this, why the importance of dancing and why I said it's a very vulnerable subject to me, because I can tell you right now that if you're dancing, you're using your legs. When David Meeson was on here, he was just talking about how the importance of just starting your day moving your legs, maybe riding your bike, but the importance of just kind of getting that into shape. But I appreciate the use of my legs. I appreciate simple things like that, just that you can move your body, get up, and go out and through your day, because not everyone has that. So that's what I want to leave you with. I hope a lot of people can actually reflect on that and take some opportunity in following with what I've just mentioned, maybe play a song or two and try to practice dancing. It doesn't have to be in public, just maybe in your room to start out the day and move a little bit to kind of amping yourself. And I mentioned before about just being your hype person. So dancing and hyping yourself up. But I appreciate you listening throughout all of this. I hope you realize that in the end, it's you versus you. There's no other competition. There actually shouldn't be any other competition, because the only person that you're competing with is yourself. You're trying to be the best you can be. I know you can do it. You know you can do it. So let's do it together. Thank you for listening to Sunday with Jay Barsky. I hope you gathered a lot today. I hope you gathered so much from this podcast. If you're listening to this on the day that it's posted, enjoy your Earth Day. Enjoy doing something. Try to be a little active in the community. Doesn't necessarily have to be giving back to nature, but just be giving back to the community is good enough. Hope you gather a lot. I'll catch you on the next solo podcast, but I hope you enjoy the next interviews that are probably going to be posted coming up. Thank you so much, and I'll see you soon.